All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Nisswa Planning Commission Board of Adjustment for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026. Roll call, please.
Aaron Baseman.
Sean Weldon.
Josh Young.
Gary Harris. Dave Reese.
Stephen Timblin.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There are none.
Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next, to approve the meeting minutes for May 5th, 2026. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
None.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is an open forum. Is there anyone present tonight that'd like to speak towards something not on the agenda this evening? Hearing none, I'll move on. Moving on to public hearings, I'll entertain a motion to open public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. All right. First item is conditional use permit application 011-26, seeking a conditional use permit for construction of a freestanding sign inclusive of a dynamic display upon an existing curb island adjacent to within Smiley Road's right-of-way in the Highway Business Zoning District. Subject property is located at 23962 Smiley Road, Nisswa, 56468, PID 282-30559. Owner applicant, Andy Schaefer. Andy. Come on up. Oh. Button.
Hello, good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. As stated in that, we're just looking to put up a display sign in the island. I think I gave you in the packet all the fancy pictures and stuff.
Yeah. Stephen, your staff report?
Thank you. So yes, we have a CUP here for a dynamic display sign. That's the main component triggering a CUP for this application. Those are processed through that conditional use permit pathway subject to the standards in section 20-478, which I included in my staff report. Some items in those requirements are minimum display duration, technical settings on those dynamic display signs as to how bright they are when they get shut off, and things like that. So as long as all of these standards can comport with the application, and from my interpretation, it looks like the size of it and all of that fits the requirements, then this seems logical to approve. The certificate of survey dated on 12/30 of 2024 with revision 4/29/26 depicts the placement of that in that existing curb island. It is on the subject property, however, it's encumbered currently by the right-of-way for Smiley Road, so placement is depicted to be within that right-of-way. I look at that as a pivot on this CUP application and an opportunity for this body to operate as a advisory capacity to City Council, with conditioning that would protect the city's interest in that right-of-way. So in my staff report, I did list several conditions. It looks like 8 total so far. That kind of add that protection and pivot it toward the city council approval in this case. Other than that, happy to field any questions as it relates to it.
Do we have any questions?
I do not.
Any questions over here?
No, I guess the only question I've got is that, and it's in the staff report and the letter from Widseth on the fact that the sign is in the right of way. That's up to city council has to deal with that. Is that correct?
Yeah, any dispensing of authorization within the right-of-way corridor would be a city council action. Yes.
So that would be a condition of the conditional use permit.
Yep.
Okay.
Number 7 says failure to obtain right-of-way authorization shall render the CUP null and void as to the proposed sign location within the right-of-way, and the sign must be relocated to a code-compliant location outside the right-of-way or the CUP amended accordingly. It'd be a 2-part action at council is how I would envision it. First to address the CUP and then also to address the right-of-way execution of an agreement.
Okay, no other questions? If you'd like to make public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. I guess there's no one. Hearing none, I'll close public comments. All right, if we have no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit application 011-26 seeking conditional use permit for structure of a freestanding sign inclusive of a dynamic display upon an exiting curb island adjacent to within Smiley's Road right of way in the Highway Business District. Subject property 23962 Smiley Road, Nisswa, Minnesota, 56468. PID 282305559 for Schaefer's of Nisswa with the facts and findings and conditions set forth. And approval of city council.
Yeah, recommend approval versus approve at this body, I would say.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Yep, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. All right, next item under new business is meets and bounds lot split, Jethro Carpenter, North Shore Land Company LLC. Kevin.
Good afternoon, Kevin McCormick, Land Design Solutions, 11821 Lake Trail. Mr. Carpenter is also here with us this evening. Thank you.
Okay, Stephen?
Thank you. So we do have a split of a parcel proposed here out in Roy's Landing. It'd be lot 1, block 1. Both tract A and tract B appear to conform to ordinance standards as follows. Tract A being sized of lot area 101,000 square feet where 30,000 is required. Tract B is at 61,000 to that requirement. For lot width, they both appear to exceed the 100 foot lot width minimum. And for buildable area, they also exceed that figure for 12,000 being the minimum at 37,900 for tract A and 35,987 for tract B. That's what I have for that lot size analysis and in regards to this lot split.
Okay. Do you have any questions for Kevin?
I'm none.
All the ordinances are met on the split, correct?
Yep, as far as lot sizes and stuff, I think it's possibly worth noting that the shoreline of this parent parcel has a bluff that would be property line to property line for proposed tract A. So utilization of a walkway down that would have to be ran on its own separate timeline for a staircase go down through that bluff zone through a shoreline alt permit and meet those standards. Otherwise, for the split, I see no real other things of note. There's site suitabilities for primary and alternate septic locations for each. So largely compliant.
Okay. So we'll need a motion for the lot split, and then we'll move on and do a motion for the boundary line adjustment too. So we'll need a motion for this one. So if we have no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the lot split, meets and bounds lot split of or lot 1, block 1 of or block 2 of Rise lot 1 of block 1 of Rise Landing as presented in the staff report and according to the conditions that are stated therein.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Next is meets and bounds boundary line adjustment. Stephen.
Thank you. So this application is pertaining to Lot 2, Block 1 and Lot 1, Block 2 of the same plat, Roy's Landing. This one's a little bit more complicated. This one would typically be an administrative process to do a boundary line adjustment between two lots of record. However, the location of this split and what it is involving also involves a easemented area dedicated to the city of Nisswa through the plating process for a potential future road. So the survey that we see here depicts that shift between this line, I'm gonna call it C5 because that's just a call out that's nearby it. That is the existing lot line between the northerly parcel and the southerly parcel. That shaded area called out as tract D is that portion that would be transferring from the southerly lot to the northerly lot. As that shift occurs, so also too is proposed to have the roadway easement moved as well. So this would be a city council action again, as it pertains to those areas that the city is holding in trust. And so this would be a recommendation capacity to city council. I have structured into this lot split the same analysis for lot size minimums. Both of the resultant tracts appearing to meet the lot area, lot width, and buildable area requirements of their respective lake classifications. And structured some conditions to protect the city in regards to the moving of the easement. And it should also be noted that part of Tract C is an alternative access corridor from the original plat for those lots in Block 2, Lot 1 through 4, being the beneficiaries of it. You also see a proposed trail easement in your packet depicting the new corridor that would be for that access portion. It would be my recommendation that in condition number 3, that there's a acknowledgement that of the 2 easements, that the city's roadway easement should take precedence and supersede the trail. So I've stated in that conditioning that in the event that the city utilizes its roadway easement outlined in condition number 2, the trail relocation, if deemed necessary by the city engineer, must meet the satisfaction of the city engineer, and such relocation shall occur at the expense of the homeowners association for this plat. What that would do, in my interpretation, is if the city decides 10 years from now, 20 years from now, that we want to put a road there and we go out to find a trail in the center of the corridor that we would be putting our road, that we have the ability to execute our needs.
Yep.
So those are all part of the conditions then, those.
Those
Those are the-
potential conditions.
Those are the 4 potential conditions. We got a email from Dave Reese, our city engineer, earlier that asks a couple questions of the applicant. And number 1 was, will the existing trail that has been constructed on the current trail easement be relocated to the proposed trail easement? To me, that's a yes or no. Is the proposed trail easement following the corridor of the trail that's already there?
Yeah, for the most part, down around that curve area, it falls out of it. So we would probably want to move that within the new corridor as well. And that comes right down to Dave's question on number 2. The existing easement left provisions during the plating process to extinguish that easement. Same thing would most definitely apply here. Get the trail where it's supposed to. City holds top priority to that easement. If the road ever went in, this trail easement would be extinguished and it then becomes public way, of course.
Okay.
And I think that question number 3, if the city decides to construct a public roadway on the proposed 66-foot wide public easement alignment, will the private trail easement that is also located remain intact or be vacated? Sounds like that your answer
Yes,
simply
I
answers that.
think you're right on that one, Dave, for sure. Just like the plat was, it needs to be extinguished. Otherwise, it just hangs there.
Yep, sure. And for question 4, the question of what properties are the benefiting parties to the trail easement? It's staff's interpretation that that came from the plat approval, that that's an alternative access for those lots 1 through 4, block 2.
That is
Second.
also correct, correct.
I have no further questions, but here for analysis or comment as needed.
Did that address everything, Dave? Did you? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions from the group here?
Do not.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to recommend to that the council move ahead with the approval for lot line adjustment application 013-26 for North Star Land Company LLC. Again, according to the staff report, the discussions that we had here at the meeting and the conditions, the potential conditions that are listed.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All's in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Good.
All right, next item is chapter 20, communications tower regulations. I think I have some individuals here that like to speak on that.
Sure can.
Um, Good evening. My name's Paula West. I live at 25839 Trailside Run in Nisswa. And my friend Roger Landers and I were the appellants to these cell tower variances that were appealed. And in the course of that, we felt that it was important to look at our current tower ordinance and see if there's ways that we can improve it to make a win-win situation for the community and for the residents. And so we have done that. And in your packet, we have put together a couple of recommendations for you on changes to chapter or section 20, article 4, division 4, communication towers. And Roger is going to summarize the values of that. He thought he was going to get out of that. So we hope that, you'll take this under consideration as a amendment to the ordinance, and it would make it easier for a cell tower company to position a cell tower in the community, not necessarily be restricted to just city land, and some other benefits as well, so.
You can tag them in.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Stephen, we just might want to add, I thought Stephen might summarize it since he included it in the packet, but Roger and I did meet with Stephen after the last planning commission meeting and before this meeting to go over this, and he was very much in agreement, I think, with what we've proposed. And so he can speak to that, but Roger has a few more comments.
Good evening, Planning Commission. I'm Roger Landers, living on Edna Lake Road for the last 38 years. So anyhow, I'll briefly summarize. Let's go with the very first one that we would like you consider, and that's section 20-419, and that's the location where cell towers are to be placed. As you know, in the city of Nisswa, there's only one district classification they can be put in, and that's public recreation, and that's very limited. We feel, because we would like for you to consider opening it up to other classifications. And I believe if you look at that list there, I think it's very appropriate. We are following the Crow Wing County model. Crow Wing County believes that cell towers can also be placed on private property as well as public. And that's what we're opening up for Nisswa. But still, the property owner would have to agree with a tower company to put it on their property. All we're saying is let's open it up to to some other places that we can do it rather than just a public location. And those are identified on the on our recommendations.
And I might add too that under this suggestion, the highway business corridor too is another possibility. As we know, the city owns land on 371. And when that land is rezoned, that would be another possible area to put a cell tower. There's been a lot of technology improvements, and when we appealed the variances, we did a lot of research on what is possible and what the technology is out there. And virtually in 4 or 5 years, satellites are going to be the way that cell coverage is provided. So cell towers may be on their way out. But also, once that land is rezoned, then it could be out there, and they certainly, with different technology, uses of different technology, they could provide the coverage, we hope, that would reach the downtown area where there is lacking coverage right now.
Okay, let's take a look at the second option that we would like you to consider, and that is setbacks. And this is a specific setback that our ordinance doesn't address, and that's the fall zone setback. That means the height of the tower if it would happen to fall plus 10 feet. Again, that's a very common language that's in the Crow Wing County ordinance, as well as the Brainerd and Baxter's, and I'm sure it's just, I don't know how the city missed this, but this is a fairly common standard that's in all tower ordinance. So we would like to see that, and that's also been simply put in the paragraph that's I don't have that paragraph
Right here.
in front of me, but it's in red. The fall zone is what we're looking at.
And the other comment there is just a personal comment I made when I gave this information to Stephen, but I personally live within 500 feet of the tower that was proposed here. And I think 500 feet from a residential area is still not enough. Because if you sited it 1,000 feet, a tower that was proposed 190 feet would have still been objectionable to the residents in the area. So one of the reasons why we are suggesting different zones is to get it away from residential areas and yet be able to provide coverage that's needed.
Okay, the third recommendation we're supporting is the going with a monopole structure rather than the lattice triangle or quad angle tower. Our ordinance our ordinance identifies these towers should only be placed at 150 feet, and a monopole can certainly handle that. And if you look at the monopole designs now, they're pretty sleek. They're more visually attractive, and I think that we should consider only adopting, if we approve a monopole structure. Anything else to add to that?
No.
Okay, so those are the three that are in section 20 of the land use ordinance. The other one actually falls in well, I guess it is in section 20, but it's in the 20-656. That's in the appeals section. Now, I'm realizing the Plan Commission does not get involved with appeals, and but we feel there should be a more definite process when appeals do happen with land use ordinances. That it appeared to Paul and I that it was very cumbersome when we got to the council with the appeals, that there wasn't really a structure that was identified for not only us but also to the council members. In fact, I can recall that one of the council members had to have the city attorney kind of review how these appeals. So it's not something you do often, but we feel that that our planner can very easily come up with a process to handle these types of appeal. And maybe, Stephen, you want to address that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, so in regards to the variance appeal process, it is structured under that section 20-656 subpart J. For variances, there's other appeal language in our ordinance such as that for conditional use permits. So it should be noted that if we clarify it here, we also clarify it elsewhere where such language might exist in the ordinance, and I can certainly facilitate that if we engage in a revision scope project. As far as the appeal process, I could certainly draft up like a diagram showing, what this looks like, step 1, step 2, step 3, and things like that. That would mainly be an administrative thing in my interpretation. It certainly could be codified into ordinance language, but that might not necessarily be 100% necessary. Once it's codified, then you have to go through that public hearing component to even adjust a letter to it. So my recommendation for paving out a smooth appeal process would probably be an administrative capacity, not necessarily an ordinance amendment related item. Definitely something that I can do at the pleasure of the planning commission or city council. So outside of that,
That's all I think that's very well worded. And one of the frustrations we had, this was, when we got to the appeal, this was strung out over maybe 3 council meetings. We tabled it.
it got tabled for 2 months if I remember.
2 months, and so we had to deal with a rather lengthy process of just not having one meeting to deal with, but 2 or 3 others, and we had the Verizon involved, and they weren't here one, and we had to make sure that they were involved with it. So I think a more definite appeal process should be identified.
Well, and one thing that we discussed, Stephen, was that as a person making an appeal request, it was very confusing. We didn't know when the appeal hearing was going to happen, how much time do we have? And again, it's because the process was not well defined. But one of the things we discussed was if administratively, Stephen developed a appeal form, the process could be listed on that form. So it was very clear to the appellant exactly what that process would be.
Any questions for us?
I guess when you were talking about the appeal process, I understand where you're coming from, but do we as a body, can we make those adjustments, or is that city council that has to make those adjustments? And
I think that would mainly be a policy driven thing from city council as to
Okay.
what that should look like. Especially if it's not something that's codified in chapter 20 land use and development. If it was language that you were looking to adopt into the chapter, then it would be before you guys as to what do you think about the language specifically. Acknowledging that the policy directive might be coming from the higher level of city council there. So certainly something that moving forward from this new business item for you guys could be discussed at the city council level. I do have, not to try to pivot or anything, but we rapid fired through some of the first items on this, like location, setbacks, and self-supporting structure. I do have some feedback if you'd like to hear it about those things.
Yeah.
So location, we have a couple different things that are kind of nuanced going on here. We have the public and recreation district. That's the current zoning designation of which we'll entertain a CUP for a communication tower. The suggestion is to open up for highway business district and open space residential. I want to hone in on that open space residential category for just a second, as it is a residential district. Section 20-420, which is the second part of their recommendation, is to possibly increase the residential zone setback of 500 feet. If we wanted to move forward with open space residential allowances, we would want to really hone in on that setback for residentially zoned parcels, to say perhaps that open space residential is excluded from that because that's now a district would put a tower in. So that's one little nuance thing that I would look at polishing up if we did open up and go through a revision scope of this. Is how do we clarify that? How do we harmonize the intent of residential separation from also allowing it in a residential district? I could do that administratively in that scope revision. The self-supporting structure requirement, our ordinance does currently require that it is self-supporting. We do not allow guide towers with guide wires that go off in 3 different directions. Our ordinance does recommend it says should utilize an open framework or monopole configuration. So that monopole element is in there, but we also allow for open framework. So food for thought on if we wanted to be very exclusive on what type of tower and wanted to really limit it just the monopole versus that open framework as well. But again, the main separation there is the guide towers in my interpretation. So other than that, happy to field thoughts, foster discussion.
So just because I'm somewhat new to this whole tower thing, but
Hmm.
so were we not allowing it on private property before?
Correct.
No, it's only
Only
on
in city
city.
property.
I'll read the section here. I'll put it on the screen for you. Section 20-419. Towers prohibited in central business district and encouraged on certain city property. It says towers shall not be located on any non-city owned, residentially zoned, or central business district zoned parcel of property within the city. First preference for siting towers should be given to the city-owned parcel of property currently containing the municipal sewer ponds. That's the language within our ordinance that says just public and recreation in harmony with our land use charter that puts it as a conditional use only in that district, but also prohibited elsewhere. And we already have a tower down near the municipal sewer ponds. I think we exhausted that in previous conversations and a little bit through the appeal. So I think what the individuals here before us today are asking is, hey, that seems pretty restrictive. Can we open it up? Should we go to residential right away, or do we want to open it up to other ones? What's the pulse on loosening the reins a little bit if we wanted to, is kind of how I'm zooming out and looking at this comprehensively. So
And I also would like to see that the central business district is expanded beyond what it's currently considered to include, where the fire hall is and the community center, and because right now it's not considered central business district, but in all essence, it really is. We've got the Heritage right across the street, the village, the Pioneer Village. I mean, that's all part of the central business district, so. I'm just trying to prevent what happened before. We're not against cell towers. We just want to make sure that they're appropriately placed.
I think that that's a zoning map concern primarily, potentially, if I understand you correctly, maybe looking at rezoning that. One thing that I would note is that the city of Nisswa and the Department of Natural Resources, both landowners within the city of Nisswa, have followed a pathway to zone all of those holdings to that public and recreation designation. So that potential of rezoning the fire hall, rezoning the community center might veer from that trajectory and consistency, but just a side note as it relates to that.
Before you ask any specific questions, on the second page, there's some additional suggestions. These were taken from the Crow Wing County ordinance, and they're kind of minor, but yet I think important. The first one, Crow Wing County 43.2, is about applicability.
Yeah, first off, Stephen,
Mhm.
did you make any comments on these 7 that we identified?
I have not yet, no.
Oh, okay, so again, they're minor, but we feel that like they are a supplementation, and the fact that they are in the Crow Wing County tower ordinance, and after all, we consider the Crow Wing County model for all of our land use. We kind of look after them. We just feel like that these seven should also be considered. And maybe, Stephen, you need to take maybe a closer look at these or to see if they will fit in or if there's any duplication.
Well, so I'm scanning our ordinance on the other screen here as it relates to a couple of them. Applicability, that basically says that it's unlawful to act without prior approval from the department or the city. I think we have that in our ordinance. It's just elsewhere under the administration and enforcement sections. General standards and signage, add the requirement that the owner's name, telephone number, all of that type of stuff be posted on the gate. I don't believe that that's in our communication tower ordinance. I do think that that would be something that could be wise. Say there's a problem that a passerby identifies. Can they identify the owner and let them know sooner? After obviously calling emergency services, but that would be something that might be a prudent introduction.
This is not on the tower itself. This is on any buildings, accessory buildings that they put that's fenced in. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think that that's logical and reasonable. It's just a simple requirement that, yeah, advertise who this belongs to and who to contact in an event of something.
How about 3, the lighting of accessory building? Is that,
I think we might have some type of stuff in here. Let's go to section 20-4.
I think the
D1.
purpose of this is really just to ensure that there isn't any visual pollution, nighttime pollution going on from the tower. Of course, there is height requirements in terms of lighting, but
yeah,
this is not necessarily for the tower itself, but for,
accessory
yeah.
building.
Mm-hmm. So we do have section 20-420, subpart 5, a lighting requirement. No illumination of towers be allowed. This is more so, in my mind, the lighting atop the tower. Those that are larger than 200 feet, they have that FAA requirement stepping in. There could be something that's introduced under that particular subpart that talks about accessory structure signage, or lighting rather, and the illumination on them perhaps being downcast as opposed to just illumination, sconces, things of that nature. But I think the principal thing might be downcast lighting as opposed to outcast and upcast.
Mhm.
How about the next one, the site plan drawing, the scale? Do we have anything? I couldn't seem to find anything in our, right, again, this is in Crow Wing counties.
All right. As it relates to communication towers, one of the submission requirements for that is a certificate of survey. And those certificates of survey are bound to be to scale, so.
The 5th one, well, actually, it's an FFA requirement that they have to meet those requirements. I guess when we were appealing it, this doesn't refer to this, but in terms of safety standards, the what's the department? The federal
FAA,
Which one?
for safety. Well, it's not OSHA, but
FCC.
yes, the FCC. They have the safety standards that were submitted with the variance application were from 1999. And those standards have been they've been updated over 20 times. And they didn't apply to 5G. And today we have 5G, which has different radiation standards. So I don't think we need anything in the ordinance about that because they have to meet, that's really a federal issue that they have, that they're not enforcing that.
Well, and the city has adopted by reference that section of the Telecommunication Act of 1996, under section 20-418, subpart B. It says the city adopts by reference section 704 of the Telecommunications Act 1996, et cetera, to the extent applicable within the city. So what I think what Paul is saying is we don't administer or enforce the federal requirements and those upper limits and stuff. But under question 5 here, I think your ask is to codify a requirement that a copy get given to the city.
Right.
in that
An
process.
updated copy,
Yeah.
current copy. Yeah, and there was a lot of concern about the radiation with an assisted living facility 33 feet from where that tower was going to be placed.
Should be noted that that same Telecommunication Act prohibits municipalities, cities, counties, planning and zoning determinations to be made on the basis of human health hazards. They just simply have to operate within those thresholds set by the FCC.
Okay, number 6 is the leasing agreement. So we realize the current ordinance, that the leasing agreement is between like Verizon and the city. So if we were to, if a private property owner gets involved, I guess I'm not sure if this, you're gonna have to help us out here, Stephen, if this really relates to the city's jurisdiction or not. And is this in the current ordinance?
My interpretation of that is, in essence, it is, because right now we require that it's only on city-owned property. So a lease agreement would have to come before the city at some point. Where I would draw a cautionary line in the sand is, what interest does the city want to partake in handling civil elements such as a lease between a landowner and somebody that is the grantee of that lease on private property? Could potentially be a slippery slope
Yeah.
that we're standing upon.
Well, all I'm saying, it's in the county ordinance.
Well, the
can-
landowner would have to have a lease agreement with the
Verizon.
company,
Yeah.
but the city you'd have to provide a conditional use permit for that activity.
And it does say demonstrating a good faith effort to lease or purchase space. So some type of statement saying that they tried getting their antenna located on another existing tower is essentially what that means. If we were to adopt that same language into our ordinance, says the applicant shall submit proof in the form of a signed affidavit demonstrating a good faith effort to lease or purchase space on an adjacent existing tower facility. That adjacent existing tower facility, in my opinion, is important because it's almost like mitigation under the Wetland Conservation Act. Before you get a replacement plan to build a driveway or build a house in a wetland, you have to show that you're minimizing that and go through what's called sequencing. So did you try to co-locate an antenna on Verizon's tower if we were talking to AT&T or vice versa? We certainly could look at adopting that. I think that would be a policy thing for you guys to hammer out, whether that's something that we want to have as a submission requirement for these applications. And then ratified that through council. And similarly, I can work on redlining language like that into an ordinance, and we can go through the public hearing in the proper fashion. So if that's something that we want to consider throwing in there.
You asking,
I'm just stating.
okay.
Yep.
The recommendation.
And the last one is just factors to consider in granting a conditional use permit. You do have language that relates to this, and don't know if there's anything in here that's not included. Visual obtrusiveness, although there is a statement in the current ordinance about being visually not obtrusive.
Yeah, I could look at Crow Wing County specific performance standards in parts A through K. Cross-analyze them to our existing language and neighboring municipalities and try to synthesize that again. If we move forward with rolling this into the next phase of ordinance revisions, I would certainly go through all of these motions.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for
Yeah, thank you.
considering
Thank you.
these suggestions to hopefully be a win-win for the community and for the residents of Nisswa.
Thanks for your work on it.
Awesome.
Can I have a couple of questions?
Go ahead.
Just to summarize the process here, I think what Ms. West and Mr. Landers has done is of credit to you. They're all good suggestions and this process should be, you know, we did bypass it in our chapter 20 ordinances, the tower, you know, the revising the tower chapters. Can I fully agree that appealing or streamlining the appeal process probably would be a part of it, a necessity. Allowing the towers on private property, I also think that should be considered.
Yeah.
And so far as design on these poles and monopoles, I would have no problem at all trying to see the city of Nisswa limit our towers to monopole design. Just the design or what goes into the process for those, because of what they are without any guy wires and the type of structure, the foundation that's underground that holds those things is grossly oversized compared to the weight of the pole, you know, for counterbalance. So, yeah, you talk about fall zones, and I think that's been necessary over the years, especially with regular towers that are triangular in nature, and with guy wires they could fall. But the new monopole designs are made so that they have what's called a fold to them. If they were overweight and they got in high winds on the top, they don't fall over. They actually fold. They're designed to kind of fold up so they drop in place. And so they're much safer design than what regular ones would be. So I mean, some of that should all be taken into account. I think the other thing with the other tower being downtown, next to the fire department, the fire department was going to be a benefactor of this pole, you know, for their radio use. And you know, it,
Even didn't Brian at one of the meetings said, when the system part.
They made a comment about a generator, like whether we would be sharing a generator. I do recall something about that. Co-location of antenna is a requirement.
Repeater
Under-
came up, like,
Yeah.
a repeater was.
they were going to use the pole
But I don't-
for a repeater.
I think that was taken off, like they couldn't use the repeater.
Okay, strike that. And then I guess after the discussion that we've had tonight, where do we go from here? You gonna draft is your office gonna draft a proposed ordinance and for language for it and come back for discussion or?
Well, at your pleasure, I would draft a memo. If you recommend initiation of staff review of language comparing to Crow Wing County, harmonizing and synthesizing these proposed changes from Roger and Paula, I could bring that to city council and say, hey, these are the minutes from the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment in response to Roger and Paula's proposed summary. Then that would greenlight me then to start actioning some language changes, redlining in our ordinance that would actuate those. We would go through that same review process as we did for the chapter 20 stuff. Once we have close to a final document, I'd bring it back to city council. Let's start the public hearing, bring it back through you guys, and we can start that. Whether it's on its own independent pathway, or if there's other stuff that's been identified that we want to tie into that, almost like this is a part of a phase. We could do it either way. So, how urgent? Well, you guys tell me. It's busy season right now, so permitting is in full swing. Typically ordinance revision timelines would be better suited for the winter months for planning and getting that through, but I could start actioning a simple focused ordinance change such as this yet this summer if it's an independent thing. So options are yours, and I would just bring forward from this meeting to city council and at their June, just an agenda item saying, hey, we discussed this. Paula and Roger, you're more than welcome to come to that too if you want to. Is that your request of us, is to kick it to council next month or this month rather?
Well, you just to kind of you like.
Yeah.
One thing we don't know.
They're off mic.
They should be out.
Yeah, sorry. Yep.
I don't know that there's urgency to do this, but what we don't know is if anybody has talked to Verizon since the appeal. Stephen has not talked to him. Maggie, have you talked to them? We don't know what their intention is. So in terms of that, you know, in case they do decide to come back, which I personally doubt they will, but in case they decide to come back, that, you know, we have this process started at least, I think would be good. And then there could be urgency to pass it through if necessary.
Well,
They're not the only company either, so if the
No.
companies all of a sudden come knocking on the door. I
Well,
mean, we went through this, so I would hate to see that we were not prepared for the next time if.
right. AT&T doesn't, people who have AT&T in this area don't seem to have as much difficulty with cell coverage as Verizon. Like I said, I live within 500 feet of here, and if I go outside of my house where I have internet, I cannot make a phone call 500 feet from here. So, and calls get dropped all the time. So Verizon is the main problem with cell coverage here.
Well, if you want to use the term urgency, I guess that improving the reception in the downtown area is really what this is all about. And it's not an urgent thing where it has to be fixed overnight.
Well, we
But
wouldn't
it
have a
is,
tower
but it
there
is a
for-
problem that, and technology, just like she was talking about earlier, may very well change. You know, technology is changing so fast that
Yeah.
5 years from now, or even 1 year from now, you never know what, you know, with Starlink, maybe what everybody's living off of, you know, because
The only,
it's happening fast.
yeah, sorry. The only urgency I would see is if by passing it to where we could go to where we could go into the private market with these, it might help them identify before they come in.
Sure, the need for a variance might not be as
Yeah.
high for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, at minimum, my recommendation would be to bring this to city council at their next meeting, just an agenda item saying, hey, we talked about it, we started discussion. Is this something that we want to do, and let them maybe decide the urgency to it? At that same meeting, we would have our city attorney in attendance to kind of opine on, well, these are my thoughts, where then city council could direct next steps of them. So.
Yeah.
My 2 cents.
I would recommend that we bring it to the council meeting.
Sure. Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
Do you have any additional comments? I mean,
No, I don't know. It just surprises me that I guess I never realized that we didn't allow it in the private sector. Where I came from around the Princeton, Oak River, Zimmerman area, everybody had them on. I mean, it was actually like winning the lottery if someone
Yeah.
put
Yeah,
a cell
yeah,
tower on
yeah.
your property. It was like, please pick me.
well, I think there'd be additional concern about setbacks if we're doing it on private property. I'll just give you an example. So on our lake, they had something similar with a cell tower, and everybody hated it. And it's 2 miles away, but in everybody's field of view on the sunset, it's right in the center on the whole western shore. So they still talk about it. I mean, everyone despises it because of that reason. So even if it's this far away, there's ways to complain about it. That's all I'm saying.
Right. No, I agree.
There are better looking towers now, though.
There is.
They look like trees. There's one
Yeah.
over by.
Gull Lake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but-
Gull Lake.
Yeah. Guide wires, light flashing,
Well,
two
that-
flight.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can't imagine anything worse than that.
well,
Or if that cap comes off, then I heard it's really something, like if
Oh, yeah.
the cap over the light bulb itself comes off, blows off, falls off.
Oh, yeah,
It's
it's
like
great.
the
Yeah.
whole-
yeah. So, okay, yeah. Well, I have a motion and a second to forward this on to city council.
Wait,
So all those in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
kick it down the road.
Yeah. Next one is old business, none, city planners report.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, we are in full swing for the business season, getting a lot of septic designs, and compliance inspections through the winter window season that we just endured. Thank goodness summer's here. And so business is good in the permitting department. We did have that ordinance amendment follow through to city council where it was approved and published to the Pine Lakes Echo on May 27th. So that is complete and those ordinance revisions are in effect. Already had the benefit of a couple permits that were a little bit more flexible in regards to that because of those changes. So I think that that is a good indication as well. Not in my city planner report, I was provided a notion of a donation for a clock tower, clock and bell tower, to the city of Nisswa by current city council member Zahn. And so this planning commission might have a application before it at some point here if that donation comes to fruition. So I just wanted to put an early plug in that we might see something like that come forward. Early design concepts indicate that and potential location, it might have potentially, depending on the location, of variance application or maybe even a CUP. But I think it's an exciting thing. Could be a landmark for downtown. So we're just kind of early on that topic, but Councilman Zahn wanted me to bring that before you guys just under my city planner report and say that that might be on the horizon here.
Shades of Back to the Future.
Yeah. Where would it, where is the proposal to?
Kind of in the heart of the town here, close to downtown where it can be viewed. It's a four-faced tower.
Cool.
And so, you know, wherever you're at downtown, if you can hear the bells chiming and
Cell phone location.
Yeah.
Right on the cell tower location, huh?
Oh, no.
maybe with an antenna on top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any additional comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.
Who made the original motion?
You make it?
Second.
Aaron. I heard Aaron.
Okay, good. That's all good. All right.